Hello, welcome to Everyday Experts. I am your host, Sir Joker Card. Oh, I'm sorry, Sir Joker. I am here with actually somebody who is very impressive to me as a human being in the things that she's accomplished in her life, the many accolades. Very few people make me feel like I ain't doing shit with my life. But she is one of them. She has her doctor of psychology. She's an ABA therapist. She is a behavior analyst. She has a BS in psychology, her MS in educational psychology and ABA, and her PhD is in general psychology. All and also for fun, she is a certified addiction substance abuse counselor. And to say that she is amazing is an understatement. She came to the United States when she was 21 years old, and she's done all these things in about 2 years, I feel like. Um, she was a co-worker. She is one of my great friends. There are a lot of people that I see work with the autistic population, and she is one of those people that makes a difference, that resonates with the individuals we help, with the people that we help. I worked with her at an agency called QSEC in New York, and she was great there. And we kind of were colleagues, and then we just started talking, and I loved her vibe and loved her flow. And again, like I said, she's very accomplished. She's very smart. So I'm gonna start calling her the credentialed lady because she's very credentialed. She is one of the people that I am actually very awestruck by. And I don't say that a lot, and I don't say that lightly. Lightly was the English version. So, without further ado, I bring to you Dr. Fefe.
Hi.
Oh, hey, girl. How you doing?
I'm great. Thank you for having me.
Thank you for coming on and bestowing your knowledge and wisdom upon us all. What's up, French? Let me say hi to some of the people in the chat real quick. What's up, Matt? Mrs. Carter, Mr. Munoz, Mr. Taunter. Hello, hello, hello. Dr. Fefe, Dr. Fee.
Yeah.
You have done this isn't my first question, but I just want to acknowledge, you hear Black excellence all the time.
Oh,
You are the personification of that. Thank you for being on Everyday Experts.
pleasure is mine.
No, the pleasure's mine. Are you ready to take flight and show everybody in the world why you're amazing?
I am.
Right, first question. If you could be a vampire, a werewolf, a wolf, a zombie, a ghost, or a serial killer, which would you pick and why?
I will be a ghost.
Oh, okay. Why would you be a ghost?
So I can travel for free.
Yeah, you do like traveling too.
I do.
We could talk about that first. I have other questions. We talk about your childhood and all that stuff. We'll get there. Where are some places that you traveled?
I have traveled. Where haven't I traveled? I traveled throughout the Caribbean. Many of the islands, even those islands that many people look over, like Saba. When I landed in Saba, I got a shirt that said I survived the Saba landing. It's the craziest airport I've ever landed on. But like, if this pilot does not nail this, we are all dead. So.
And my brother's having some issue. Hold on one second.
No worries.
You can keep talking about your trip. I can hear you.
I've also been to Aruba, Barbados, Curacao, Cuba, Mexico, but Acapulco side, not just the Cancun side. Panama. I'm well traveled. London, Paris, Um, guess at this point we'll just wait for him to come back.
Sorry about that.
Okay.
So everybody doesn't know, my brother's here. He's on the spectrum. He was having a couple of issues. Fefe knows how that is
Like,
when you have to kind of interject with stuff. Sorry. So, where was your favorite place that you actually visited?
interestingly enough, I will say Barbados.
Hmm.
They are probably the most friendliest people I've ever met, and I thoroughly enjoyed going through the caves. Um, it was just a beautiful island. It's so small, but it's so beautiful. It kind of reminded me of home because I'm from a small island, and I feel like when people come to visit my island, I hope they have that experience and that takeaway as well. So, yeah.
So, speaking of home, since you brought it up, that's a very nice transition. Where is home?
I am from St. Croix, which is located in the U.S. Virgin Islands,
Mm-hmm.
born and raised.
So, I know you came here when you were 21.
Yes.
So, what was it like growing up in St. Croix? I know the terrible weather and it's tough swimming all day and all of that. I don't know how you were able to survive such daunting surroundings.
I grew up, I probably wouldn't trade my childhood for anything else.
Mm.
The Virgin Islands is a melting pot, so you get to see a lot of other cultures throughout the Caribbean for what it is, not just pieces of it without leaving home.
Mm.
So you will get to go to the roti shop and have really, really good roti, either from the Guyanese or from the Trinidadians. You could also go to the Puerto Ricans and get food. You could go to the Santo Domingans and get food. You are able to distinguish the difference. Um, you can, like, it's just something that I wouldn't trade. And then we have so much history on my island. Um, Fortunately for me, I was able to like grow up and I played steel pan. I was just a, I guess a lot of people kind of just slide by the culture. I really enjoyed growing up home. So I stayed, started my college career there, did my undergrad there. So I just love our culture. I really do. And we can't forget Carnival, which is
Mhm. What is carnival?
So our carnival is held in the month of December into January. And it's just basically where we get to hear the local music, soca, we have Quilby, we have one of our famous bands is Stanley and the Ten Sleepless Nights. We get to hear the local calypso show. We just have, and then we have parade. The parade, we have Juve. Juve morning is more like where you party, coming down behind your trucks, and then the parade is more organized, where you're in your troops and you wear your costumes and you get to enjoy yourself with your friends and your family. And then we have village, where it's like, uh, there's many booths, and you get to visit people who you usually won't get their food all throughout the year, only at special events, and hear special bands, multiple nights. It's just, it's an entire vibe. If you can go to the Virgin Islands between our carnival, which is the end of December into January, go. That's for everybody.
I hope you're sponsoring trips there. I'm ready to sign up.
You want to go for a ride?
So, all right. You know what that is?
Yeah.
Give me 2 minutes, Fefe.
Okay.
We'll be right back. Sorry, guys. Yeah. About that, sorry. As you hear, my brother's having a bit. You're all too used to that.
All right.
All right. So.
Stop.
Fefe, give me like 15. So we're gonna stop for 15 so I can get my brother straightened out. All right.
Sit down. Sit.
So I don't know if you want to hang out. You can. We'll be right back. All right, I apologize for that, Fefe.
No worries.
I know you. Everybody might not understand. We don't get to pick when people get upset.
Absolutely.
Had to calm my brother down. He was a little agitated. All right, so we were talking about the Caribbean and you sponsoring us going to Carnival, right?
Okay.
So, and you were saying it's kind of like a multicultural event?
Well, no, I grew up in a melting pot. So the island itself is just filled with people from many different islands throughout the Caribbean.
Do they come? Is it because of how St. Croix is, or is it because of Carnival? Like, do they come there for Carnival, or is it just that's a destination point?
I honestly feel like because the Virgin Islands in general is so close to the Caribbean and it's one of the closest US territories that come in there and being able to start and get their paperwork and everything, it's a little bit more convenient than trying to get all the way to America sometimes. So I know that's why my parents were there.
Is it so having the influence of both cultures? Would you say that it's more American? Would you say it's more West Indian? Would you say it's like a hodgepodge of everything?
I feel like my island is definitely not Americanized. It is not Americanized. Like we have American influence, yes.
Okay.
But we are not Americanized.
What's up, Austin, sir? I know you're not American. So you came to America when you were 21, correctly?
Yes.
You did you did undergrad.
I came to America when I was 23.
23. Ooh. 23. So now you just did everything like 5 years as opposed to 6. Okay, thanks, man. Thanks for making me feel extra stupid. I can always count on you. So you did undergraduate in the Caribbean?
Yes, I attended the University of Virgin Islands on St. Croix campus, which is a HBCU, and then I transitioned to North Carolina first for a year, get my feet wet, and then picked New York due to the field and the opportunities that it presented. Came up here.
How did you pick North Carolina?
Oh, one of my best friends at the time was living there. She's a Marine.
Hoorah.
So, yeah, she was stationed in Jacksonville, North Carolina. And I was like, hey, since you're in America and I want to go to America, I'm coming. And she said yes. So, shout out to you, Hadassah.
Oh, okay. And then North Carolina to New York. That's another culture shock.
Yeah.
So what was it like going from the Caribbean to North Carolina, then to New York?
So from the Caribbean to North Carolina, Jacksonville, North Carolina wasn't that big of a difference. It's very slow. People are still very kind. You know, everybody's auntie and cousin, and you know, the food is still very good, and homemade and fresh. So that wasn't as big of a culture shock as it was coming to New York.
New York, big city of dreams.
Yeah, coming to New York was rough. I remember my first year here, there was a blizzard.
Oh.
And I called my mom every day for a week telling her, I don't think I'm going to survive up here.
No, I'm coming home.
Yeah, pretty much. I was ready. I was ready.
And now how long have you been in New York?
That was in 2014. So I'm going on 8 years this year.
You going to what year? How many years?
I'm going on 8 years this year.
Oh, 8 years.
Yeah.
I thought you said 18. I was about to say you are not a day past 30. So I don't want to hear your lies. So I know that a big staple of Caribbean culture, because my ex-wife is Caribbean, my kids are Caribbean, I know all, and the need to succeed and accomplish things. I know that's been ingrained in you, and you just had to take it and just make everybody else in the whole world feel like underachievers.
Well, that wasn't a part of the plan.
That wasn't. Oh, so when you got to the degree like number 14, you were like, oh, I guess I'll stop now.
I always knew I wanted to be a doctor. Um, did I know which area? Kinda, but not really exactly. That's how come I ended up doing general psych because I already had my specialty areas kind of concrete by the time um I was doing picking where I wanted to specialize.
So you knew what you wanted to do.
Growing up, yeah.
How long? How old were you when you knew you wanted to be a doctor of psych?
I want to say
4?
13. I want to say for sure at 14. I remember asking my mom, sorry. I remember asking my mom to look up on the computer how long it takes to become a doctor. Everybody was like, forever. And I was like, yeah, I need an actual number so I can like visually see it to get there.
Now, you knew from 14 that you wanted to be a doctor. And has that always been your locked in goal career-wise?
The end goal, yes. How I got there, what I would do throughout there, kind of just, you know, was out there. When I moved to New York, I went more into the behavioral side of psychology, versus the social work side and the counseling and all the other stuff I did before. And I just fell in love. I loved everything about it. I was doing educational psychology for my master's. I was like, I just want to do some more ABA. So I did a double master's. Just, I dove straight in.
Wait, you have a double master's. Okay. Now I have a double bachelor's. And now again, you make me feel insignificant.
No.
And let me tell everybody, me and Fefe met in a work environment as colleagues. I use that word loosely, but that's before I knew how, accomplished she was. And I always got the vibe that you felt like you were the smartest person in the room. I know how that feels because I always feel like that. Like, even if it's not true, like, and you can kind of, piggytail off this. I was in all white high school, all white undergrad for the most part, mostly white graduate school. So for me, it wasn't about showing that I'm the smartest. I wanted to accomplish the most in the class and let everybody know that you're not on my level.
So growing up in the Virgin Islands is a lot different. I was always around people who are just like me. In 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 a respect, and I'm gonna give you an example why.
Okay.
Although I always graduated valedictorian up until high school, I remember tying for valedictorian for 6th grade. So, they just couldn't round either one of us up or down. We both gave speeches. We both it was so that's what I'm saying. Like Caribbean people, like you just said it. We're very competitive when it comes to education. So while I always wanted to be the smartest person in the room, I was also aware that that requires work, like active work. It requires more than just breezing by. It requires work. And after tie-in for 6th grade, I said it would never happen again. Like, that's just it. It would never happen again. So from then on, I always made sure to put my best foot forward, even if it's not just school,
Mm-hmm.
no matter what I did, you know?
Mm-hmm.
So
Wow. That's a lot of pressure.
it is. I know, right? Now I look back, I'm like, what was I thinking?
But do you think that the pressure serves a double service?
Absolutely.
How do you feel that? Do you think, let's say you grew up in New York, do you think that it was your culture that kind of shaped this mindset, or do you think it was more you, or was it like a meeting of both?
I feel like I am a product of my environment,
Mm-hmm.
as well as my upbringing, as well as my experiences. I don't discredit any part of those. All three of them, I do believe, played a huge role. For example, I lost my dad when I was only 12, you
Mm-hmm.
know, and my dad was at the time my primary caregiver. So at that point, you have two choices: continue to make that person proud, or just, they're no longer here to put that pressure,
Mm-hmm.
you know?
Keep it moving.
Yeah, right. So, you make those decisions. So I do believe that life experiences, my environment definitely played significant role in who I am.
Mm. Um, a wise woman in our pre-interview said that you get 5 steps and life jumps you. Do you remember saying that?
Yes.
What does that mean to you?
Um, I just feel like when you have your goals,
Mm-hmm.
it's very important, like I said earlier, to remember that's the end goal. Getting there, how you get there, everything you
Mm-hmm.
go through to get there, remember it's a part of getting there. That's the only way you're gonna like stay focused on that
Mm-hmm.
goal. I went through a lot um during my PhD program. Ended up losing my mother. I maintained a full-time job and a part-time job because New York is ridiculously expensive.
Wait,
Um,
that's it? You had like 5 jobs. I'm
I
not.
did, I
not
did, but
this is
the
coming from a
part-time
person that
one,
had like. Okay. All right.
I had like 3 part-time jobs, but
Okay.
still, I had, it was a balancing act. I
Mm-hmm.
wasn't afforded the opportunity of staying home and going to school only. When I had to travel for doctoral residencies, had to acquire those time off, and it was a lot of juggling. And I remember one time they was like, you don't have the time off, and I was like, okay, well, that's a LWAP because I'm leaving. Like I know the end goal was to
Mm-hmm.
be a doctor. I couldn't keep putting that off for the things I was doing right now,
Mm-hmm.
and that's a hard decision to make.
Mm-hmm.
That's a very hard decision to make because at the end of the day, when I came back, that literally meant working 7 days a week for 3 months to make up what I did not acquire while I was gone. You know,
Mm-hmm.
it's like you give so much and then it just takes one or two things to push you back. So at that time, I was just like, you know what? No,
Mm.
Doctor by 30. I made it a hashtag. I put it on my screensaver. I encouraged myself throughout that whole process to remember why I was doing everything I was doing.
So let me say, so if a young girl comes up to you and says, Dr. Fefe, you're an inspiration for me. How does that make you feel?
Oh wow. Um I've actually had the privilege of speaking to a lot of kids back home,
Mm-hmm.
especially during COVID, a lot of those online, and I've heard it, and it feels unreal, because I was that kid looking up to, you know, other people in the
Mm-hmm.
field or other people who were just doing great at life. So for anyone to tell me that, it still feels like me. Like, are you
Mm-hmm.
sure? Me?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it's definitely still unreal.
Oh, I've always, admired your intelligence and the stuff that you've done and looked up to you in the sense of a coworker you're proud of. Do I want to have my PhD? And I'm not knocking you because, it's different trying to do it with 4 kids and a wife. And I'm not saying that, long term, maybe eventually. So I was like, wow, you did all of this stuff and accomplished, you had all these little hurdles in the way. You were just like, I'm just going to step over them. So that's very inspirational to a lot of people. And you should definitely be proud. And you're not, just little Fefe from the block no more.
I'm still Fefe from the block. I'll always be Fefe from the block.
Don't be fooled by the size of your rocks. I got you. How do you feel? We'll go back into like all of the educational stuff in a little bit, but how do you feel about African American culture and what you see and how you kind of experience it?
So in the field, it is very hard to walk into the room and 9 out of 10 times be the only female, be the only Black person, be the only person with locks, and the piercings and the tattoos, and still be taken seriously. But what I will say is being as effective and being me while still doing my job, I feel like it makes me better at my job. The fact that when I show up to meet a parent for their interview, because I do interviews, so I don't just take people. When I show up for an interview to meet parents, either to meet their children or to do parent trainings for them, I can show up with my locks. I can now show up with, just be me. Means so much because I remember being in rooms and feeling that imposter complex and like you're the only Black person in the room, much less being a female, like forget it, And it's just like I remember my first doctoral residency, it was 28 of us in a room because 2 people didn't show up. So it was supposed to be 30 people in a room. 28 of us showed up, and it was 2 Black women. And we're still friends to this day because who else? It's you look around and you're like, sheesh, that's us.
And I don't want to say education's not as valued in the Black African American. I'm just going to say Black because I say Black culture as it is in the West Indian culture. I just know that there is an emphasis put on getting your stuff done. I've had people tell me, oh, it's okay if my son, daughter don't go to college, yada, yada. And I'm not, people want to do vocational trade and all that stuff. More power to them. My options when I were in high school, go to college or go to college. And if I didn't go to college, it was go to college.
And I feel like now parents, some parents, especially from back home, they still feel that way. And I don't. I've actually posted about this in the past, and it showed up in my memories recently. Just expressing to parents, please don't ask me to speak to your kids about going to college. What's gonna happen is I'm gonna ask your kid what's their plan, like what's their end goal, and we're gonna figure out all the steps that's required for that goal. And if college isn't required for that goal, I am not going to encourage them to go to college. College was required for my goal. And I think people just feel like, oh, because I did it and, I'm going to encourage everybody to do it. No, not at all. No, because college is expensive. College is a long time.
Yeah.
It takes a long time. I didn't take breaks in the summer, so I finished faster than most, but that's still a sacrifice. So if people can avoid it, I'm like, avoid it, avoid it, But if you can't, then make a plan. So it's more about the end goal always for me. I'm not for go to college, go to college, go to college. There's so many jobs that don't require it now, and if that's your goal, don't go.
Interesting. I didn't know that. But I do value the power of choice, especially with our kids and, especially little Black kids. And I'm not saying it against any other race, but
Absolutely.
When you know how it is to be the one of three, I think when me and you worked together and we were in meetings, there were times when it was 4 of us out of 20. If 3 of us, maybe.
Yeah.
And everybody else, I felt like was held to different standards of, oh, there were people talking. I'd be like, well, you sound stupid. But I remember one time, one of my first presentations, they said, well, can you change like kind of the way you present? Why? What's the problem? Well, they didn't understand why you were laughing, why you were joking. Now, as long as you've known me, have I not always been a jokester?
Right.
Have I not always done my job, though? Am I ever, if I don't know something, I don't pretend to know something.
Right.
So they were like, oh, well, it just kind of seemed like, unprofessional. You didn't know what you were talking about. Okay. So I was like, oh, all right, I get it. So I was like, I'll think about it. I'll take that into consideration. Then another experience, obviously people know that I'm a fan of the Joker. And one of the higher ups at our common agency sat at my desk one day and was like, oh.
I remember this.
What is there something wrong with him? Is he a little, is he okay? Should I be scared? I don't want to see him alone in the alley. And it was just like, oh, because I am not able to separate. Hold on one second. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Because I'm not able to separate a cartoon animated character, apparently, from my life. I thought that was very interesting for, what was he, the CFO or whatever he was, to sit down at my desk and in my space and judge me. And I know you were there for definitely the second one. I don't remember if you might have been in day programming for the first one, but what was kind of like your impression and your take on that?
I just always feel like, especially we were already the minority, it was interesting to see what was addressed with only us. You were not the only person who enjoyed fictional gore or whatever the case is, but you were the only one addressed.
Mm-hmm.
It's just like most of the things we saw, where, you're good at your job, but there's always a comment that needs to be made.
Mm-hmm.
That's our reality, though.
Mm-hmm.
That's our reality. Yeah.
How do you kind of combat that? Because I know how I did that, and I told you a little bit about that in it's conversations we've had about being one of two of four, and at the most was maybe 6 of us at the most I can think at any one time. And it's
not even at
how
the
can
same
you
level, though. So technically, still, even with that 6, it wasn't even on the same level. But how I combat it is I created my own. And I allow the people I work with now to accept themselves. If you want to wrap your hair and come to work, wrap your hair and come to work. If you want to wear a Superman shirt, wear a Superman shirt. If you want to wear a Joker shirt, wear a Joker shirt. As long as it's not offensive to the people we support, do you. As long as you're getting your job done, Like those things don't bother me. And I don't want anybody to be less of themselves around me the same way I had to be less of myself for a little while. And then it was just like, yeah, no, that's not happening. So
Yeah,
you know,
yeah,
yeah, I
and and,
created an
and they
environment.
can't.
Right. I created an environment where people can be themselves. And I also do a lot of give back to I mentor, you know, um, not just I generally honestly I do females because there's very few females in our field um that go above a certain level. So
Hmm.
I definitely encourage females of color and do mentorships and stuff as much as I can. Um
Hmm.
and encourage them to remember to be true to who they are throughout the whole process because there are going to be opportunities where you can not fight back but let them know, yeah, that's not okay. Like
Hmm.
me being asked not to wrap my hair. Excuse me?
Really? I didn't know that.
Yes.
Oh.
So I was asked not to wrap my hair. I think it was my first meeting with the higher ups. They didn't understand why my hair was wrapped. I was like, well, I've been wrapping my hair since day one, and if you wanted an explanation, you should have asked me 3 years ago. At this point, I'm not even giving you an explanation. I've been wrapping my hair for the last 3 years.
Hmm. And it's almost like, the idea that there's not necessarily a reason. Like, okay, you've been fine, so let's create a
Right.
reason to
Right.
bring drama to you. What? Yeah. Like you said, oh, you have tattoos. Can you cut? Why am I covering up my tattoos? What does
Yeah.
that have to do with my acumen as a clinician?
And like I said, again, they pick and choose
Hmm.
because I sit at the table with people tatted all the way to their necks and nobody makes a
Mm,
comment.
nope.
But, to each their own.
Because ours are visible, because we don't suppress, because we don't hide. And I always you have to, I believe that if you're in the field working with people, your biggest tool is you. And you alluded to that. Why would I cover up who I
Who I
am?
am. Yeah.
Why shouldn't you wrap your hair? Like, listen, if you want your hair wrapped up in the middle finger, listen, do you? People don't understand that though.
Yeah.
Um, how is it? How did you navigate the corporate world being so, you know, different? And I mean different in like the sense of different from the heterogeneous we see.
Um, I definitely I was just very unapologetic about it. I feel like people are more willing to have a conversation with you if you look uncomfortable with being you. I feel
Mm,
like when you are just like, this is it, take it or leave it, and you're good at what you do, those conversations are a lot harder for them to have. So that really was how I navigated. I just was very unapologetic about it. I was always me. It
mm,
wasn't days I was half of Fee. I
no,
was always me. So it was
no.
really a take it or leave it. And because I was so, good at my job, they
Hmm.
just took it. Like, they just
Oh.
left me alone. Leave me alone.
And what happens is it's a double-edged sword because they want you as a number, as a black male, you as a black woman, because you don't see you see more black women now, therapists, social workers, counselors, psychologists. The numbers increase, but it's still not a lot.
No, not
It's still not a
comparatively.
lot.
Yeah.
Because I know when I was in graduate school 1,000 years ago, there was one other black male counselor in school with me. One. And it was just like, sheesh. And, they wonder why you go into a therapist's office and don't feel supported, don't feel, understood. Because even if you take it to like a media standpoint, how many women up there represent who you feel you are on a movie screen?
Correct. But I will say this, as a woman of color, I have seen a lot more women of color in the media embracing more of who they are.
Yes.
And you know what?
Yes.
I love it. I'm here for it.
Yeah.
Because that gives a representation that hopefully the generation that's coming will be a little bit more confident in who they are, without the, wigs, without the,
the caps and all.
without trying to compromise so I could fit in, but still just be enough of me that I'm not giving. No, be all of you.
All that, every day.
Every bit of you, and I feel like the generations coming, we're gonna see more of that because of the more, representation in the media, and because the dolls that have the curly hair, and all of that good stuff that has started coming forward.
That's 100% true.
1 second.
One of the proudest moments I had of friendship with you was when you came in and you told us that you got your PhD, you finished it all. You were like, we had the cake at the office. I was like, yo, it was so fulfilling for me, for you. And one of the premises I work under is that we don't uplift each other enough as Black and West Indian, whatever you want to say. I put it all in one pot of gumbo and mix it up. But we don't uplift each other enough. What do you say to that?
I don't have much people in my circle, so I will say the people I had in my circle from day one, they were literally the most supportive I've ever seen. I will say that. I was on trips and I would be like, I gotta go do homework. And nobody would ever be like, homework.
Right.
Doing this no. One of my friends actually worked with us, if you remember Kia. And I remember
Kia, what up, girl?
I remember when I was having a really rough time writing my dissertation, and it was just like frustrating. I was so frustrated. And she bought me this globe that had Dr. Fee. Well, it had my full name, but that had Dr. Fee on it. And it was just a reminder to keep going. And I was writing papers and I had that globe right there. I had a very supportive circle, even though it was a small circle, very supportive. So that's not my experience. I do understand that everyone isn't fortunate to have the experiences I have, but especially even during doctoral residencies, like I said, when I went to my second one, it was just me and one other, Black female in the room. One of 5 females in general. There was still a lot of support. Everybody's like, yeah, we got this. Let's go. Because at the end of the day, we realize like we're not each other's competition right now.
Exactly.
Like we're all just trying to make it.
And I feel like that's a big theme. And shout out to Alexis and Kia, 2 amazing young women themselves. Kia's doing big things. Alexis, I haven't talked to in a while. She likes skin, she a hater, but that's neither.
She has her own business.
Oh, does she?
Okay. She does the lotions and the oils and the body scrub. And I share it on my page all the time.
Okay, I gotta check it out.
Yes.
Alexis, hit your boy up. Kia, hit your boy up. I think a big part of that is under, understanding plights and journeys. What do you think was your hardest journey in your long educational path you followed?
Educational. The hardest part of my educational journey, basically.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. I touched on it earlier, but it
Mm-hmm.
was definitely losing my mom in the middle of my doctoral program.
Mm.
My mom was literally one of my biggest fans, supporters. Um, I don't think I woke up when I left New York. I mean, when I left home, I don't think I ever woke up without a text message from my mom in my phone.
Wow.
I was literally probably the first person or one of the first people she texts every morning.
Wow.
My mom used to text me just to tell me she prayed for me.
Mm.
Like, you know,
Mm-hmm.
like, so going from that to nothing was very hard, even when she was still here, because my mom passed from cancer, so she was hospitalized for a while before she passed. And even when she was alive and hospitalized and all of that changed, it was very hard for me.
Mm.
I considered taking time off when she was sick, and she convinced me not to, you know. I'm like, Ma, it's too much. I have a lot going on. I'm flying back and forth. I don't know if I could do it all. I'm flying back and forth because she was in Florida. I'm here every
Mm.
Thursday, Friday, Saturday, come back Monday or Sunday early in the morning, go to work. Like, I was back and forth, back and forth. It was a lot. So I
Mm.
wanted to take some time off from school. And she was like, no, you know. But
Wow.
when I did lose her, it was very hard for me to keep pushing on. It was very hard.
Being that, we have so many similar things in our journey. I lost both my parents as well. How does that, I know you overcame it. How does that change you as a person, as a clinician, as a helper?
Um, I will say you don't overcome it.
Mm-hmm.
I definitely just learned to live with it. Um, so as a clinician, it made me better because for the first time in my adult life, I actually had to seek counseling. And, therapy is for everyone. And I am a strong advocate for therapy because, like I always say, going to therapy is like taking a ball of yarn with multiple colors and reeling in each color to understand where they go and the purpose they serve.
Mm-hmm.
Um, so yeah, that's that is it impacted me me being a clinician because I understood a little bit more about grief and you know the different way it manifests in us.
Mm-hmm.
Um, as a helper, I feel like I've always been that person.
Mm-hmm.
My mom played a big role in that. My mom's nickname was Lovin' J, and it was given to her by my mom was a nurse. It was given to her by one of her patients because she found her to be one of the most loving nurses on her floor. And it stuck. She kept it. She put it on her taxi. She used to drive taxi at the time. She put it on her taxi, and that was just her name, Lovin' J, you know. Um, she gave back a lot. So I was always around that. I started my first nonprofit organization. I was 16 years old, So I've always been a helper.
Mm-hmm.
Right. That's just in my DNA. Um, but loss helps you to probably touch different areas.
Mm-hmm.
So um, when my mom passed, I started a foundation, Love and J Foundation, and I did give back. So back to school backpacks, but I made sure it was in the Virgin Islands. So those were like my first um big give backs back home, and it was because of losing her and because the community also lost her, somebody who used to give back to them all the time. So I made sure it was home and not here. So yeah, those are the ways losing her impacted me.
How has she affected your legacy of and how you want to be remembered as Dr. Fefe?
Um, I just I think about more so the people who actually know me than just the name.
Mm-hmm.
If that makes sense. Okay. So to the people who know me, it's important that to me that they always feel like I was someone that they could count on and be there for. I was always someone who kept my word. I was always told that, someone you're only as good as your word. So you should be able to keep your word. So I don't make promises I can't keep. Like I try my best to don't not speak in anger towards especially towards people that I care about, you know. Um yeah, that's really my biggest concern. I don't want to I don't really care for a grand scale, but I want the people who knew me to have that impression like, I was good to them and they could always count on me. I was always there.
It's true. You do keep your word. I know, speaking from my experiences, that it is important that you keep your word. Um, you said you knew from when you were like 2.5 that you wanted to work as a doctor. Um, what and you have a lot of autism experience, spectrum experience. What attracts you to working with people on the spectrum, working with this population in general?
So I'm gonna tell you a true story. It happened to me in high school. In high school, there was a girl who was in my classes, and she had an interpreter. And she wasn't in all our classes. They were special ed classes, but they were I think it was like one or two, and she was in the classes. And I was like, so the only person she could talk to is her interpreter? And that freaked me out. Like
Yeah.
it really threw me through a loop. And I was like, no, that don't make no sense. So I
Mm.
went home and I taught myself sign language on YouTube. I could talk to her.
All right, I'm
And
going. I'm
I
done.
just wanted to talk to her. I just wanted to talk to her.
Mm-hmm.
And I felt like, you know, it was so good when she understood what I was saying and I understood what she was saying.
Mm-hmm.
And I just felt like, wow, I gave one person a voice
Mm.
to speak to more than one person.
Mm.
And I feel like I know that that moment started something for me.
Mm.
Because later on, when I learned, like, maladaptive behaviors are a form of communication, I was like,
Mm-hmm.
hold up now. This connects back to, me wanting to give other people a voice. And,
Mm-hmm.
and then, when you start advocating for them, I'm like, oh, this is even more of a voice. And so the field chose me. I always say that, I just went to the college.
Mm. Mm. All right. So I find that in our field, the very skill that you showed of meeting somebody where they're at, meeting their needs, we are sorely lacking overall. I don't think we're meeting enough people that we serve, we work with, however you want to say, clients, patients, individuals, blah 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 blah, people. I don't think we meet them where they are at, and what they need enough. What do you think?
I agree. I feel like the field has become something where it's more for the paperwork
Mm.
than for the actual completion of the task, if that makes sense.
Mm-hmm.
You know, One thing everybody knew, if I gave an individual a reinforcer of a lunch with me,
Mm-hmm.
I showed up.
Mm-hmm.
If I have to run a goal with anyone, I show up. If
Mm-hmm.
it requires me being at the home at 6 o'clock so they could get on the van, I show up.
Mm-hmm.
I care. There's a lot of people who no longer care. And instead of getting out of the field, they stay.
And,
Someone
and
actually, someone told me today, Nurse Lynn, she, hey Nurse Lynn, um, she told me, she was worried about making a mistake because she's a nurse and she was worried about making a mistake in her new area. And the nurse trainer her said, you can't make a mistake if you care. Because when you care, what's going to happen is when something is wrong and you don't know how to fix it, you're going to seek help.
mm,
And when I tell you, like, I wish
mm-hmm.
the people that work in our field and support the people that, are in the population
Mm,
would just care enough to just do that. I
mm-hmm.
don't need you to have all the answers. I just need you to know when you don't have the answers, seek someone who does.
Mm-hmm.
That's it. That's all. Like, it's really that simple. But we've come to a point where it's just, we're doing things so it can be documented, but the task
Mm-hmm.
isn't actually being completed the way it was designed, the way it's written,
Mm-hmm.
the way it's intended. You know, we're seeing more and more behaviors because our individuals have no means of communicating
Mm-hmm.
what they need. And when they do communicate what they need to us, we're ignoring it because we're
Mm-hmm.
so burnt. There's so much to this field.
Mm-hmm.
My only hope is, like I said, we continue to care. So, sometimes caring looks like, you know what? I've literally worked 7 days the last 3 weeks. Today, if anybody asks me anything, I know I'm not going to be able to give them what they need. I'm going to show up. That's caring.
Mm-hmm.
That's caring.
Mm-hmm.
Not putting individuals in that position is also a form of caring. And I don't think, like, we view it that way. So it's hard. It's very hard in this field right now. I just wish we could just share more care.
Mm. It's
Yeah.
true. Um, One of the reasons why I kind of moved away from the behavior, the BIS stuff, and moved into professional development was that, yeah, people were being trained, but were they being trained correctly? Were they being trained by people who actually understood that, when me and Fefe are doing something, if Fefe tells me a concern, the next time something happens, I have to have corrected that so she feels supported, so she feels safe.
Right.
Or, when me and you are talking about a client we have in common and you're just like, they don't know that this person doesn't know what they're talking about. And it's their job to know.
Right.
And that's when I was first like, oh, Fife's no joke. When you told me that. I don't know if you remember the conversation, but I think we were on the phone or on computer. You were just like, yeah, they're supposed to know what they're talking about. And this is a bunch of malarkey, you said.
I believe it. I do call people out on, when they're not doing what they're supposed to do.
But you have to.
Yeah.
You
Because
have
you know
to.
what? My responsibility is not their emotions. My responsibility is to the people that we support, So
So going into the long lineage of credentials you have, um, I see common themes of psychology, of ABA, and you know, educational psych, which is interesting. But first, how did you decide that you wanted to become a certified substance abuse counselor?
I was living in Jacksonville where
Mm-hmm.
like I was telling you, there's a Marine base.
Mm-hmm.
So just in case I decided to stay in North Carolina, I figured, Marines, well, you know, I would always have work.
Right.
But in general, like honestly, there is definitely a substance abuse issue with a lot of personnel in the military, in general, not just Marines. We love you, Marines. So I felt like I couldn't lose going down that road. And I actually used that degree when I first came to New York. That was one of my side jobs, as you like to call one of my side hustles was doing addiction counseling on overnight at I guess y'all call them halfway homes?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh. Yeah. Oh, you cut your teeth sharp.
All the way. Yeah. Ooh. That's why I feel like that's why I'm good at what I do, because I've been in almost every area of our field, you know, and I worked as a DSP. I worked my way up, you know, I worked as a DSP, then I was a shift supervisor, then I was an assistant BIS, then I was a BIS, then a senior BIS, then we did HRC, like, you know, so it all like, I understood every level and the frustration every level felt. So it was easy for me to relate to my staff also.
Yes, that is uber important. I find that when people look at my resume, they go like, why is your resume so long? I go, I have to find out what I like.
Correct.
Enough to do it long term. And I find now that as I'm moving into full-time therapy, you know, not leaving the OWDD field residential because, you know, it's a lot. But moving into counseling full-time, when I'm doing therapy with our guys, it's a different dynamic, and it's so much fun, and it's so like illuminating to see our guys go through it, and you know, just like me and you, self-esteem, depression, all these same issues. Why did we choose educational psych? Did you do all right? So now you have a master's in ABA.
Yes.
And you have a master's in educational psych.
Yes.
Oh, because one wasn't enough.
Because I started educational psych. And I decided that I actually want to not just do ABA, but have one of my degrees in that area so I could understand it and really, you know, I've always been about bettering my, you know, services. So yeah. And now, like, you write a behavior support plan is one thing. When you write their whole, like, everything and write a curriculum that can help them learn and that can help the parents teach them skills at home and then support the speech and support the OT. All of that goes into one, and now I can do it all. I don't really have to hire 5 different people.
No, you can hire 5 different Fefes. I love it. Now, you're not gonna like this. I know you're a huge proponent of ABA. I'm not.
Okay.
A huge fan of ABA. So what is ABA for us unindoctrinated? And how would you describe it?
ABA just means applied behavior analysis, and it's just a systematic approach to dealing with autism. Well, individuals with autism. The thing about ABA is supposed to be consistent. That's what makes it systematic. So there's a box. The issue that we see in the field is there's a lot of people who don't have one diagnosis. They don't fit into that box. So while I do feel like ABA is definitely effective when it should be applied, I feel like it is applied in areas that it doesn't have any value. Sometimes, you know, so I'm not disagreeing with you. I understand why ABA will be very frustrating if you're dealing with somebody who has autism and schizophrenia. Like, you know, like that's not gonna work on its own. But when people are solely on the spectrum, it's definitely still an effective way to build a plan for them.
And then, because you just wanted to have all of the degrees, you did a PhD in general psych. Now, was it general psych because you felt like you already knew what you wanted to do?
Yes, pretty much. So I knew I was not leaving ABA, and I knew the long-term goal was exactly what I'm doing. I started my own company. I do parent trainings. I do ABA therapy. I do community habilitation support. Um, I do like group parent trainings. So I knew this is what I wanted to go, and I already had the experience I needed. So um, general psych just kind of pulls it all together.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
All right. Do you still feel like an imposter, Dr. Fefe? Or do
absolutely.
you
I have earned my seat at every table.
talk your shit, girl? Go ahead, talk your shit.
I definitely feel like I have earned my seat at every table.
Mm.
I have been in this field. I've given, back to this field. I have had parents who I supported their child in 2014 and they still checking on me.
Right.
Like
Yeah.
I have started to make my mark in this field. I have had the most difficult parents turn around and become the sweetest thing, sending me flowers because I'm able to get through to their children who, everybody else gave up on or felt like was too difficult, So
Mm-hmm.
yeah, I've earned my seat.
I believe it, and I feel like that component is missing so much. That consistency,
Yeah,
and knowing when to bend and when. All right, no, I got to stand my ground on this.
absolutely.
And it's hard for a lot of people, a lot of practitioners, to say, all right, well, our guys, if they're frustrating us, how frustrating do you think they must feel?
Absolutely.
Imagine not walking into a room and not being able to just say hi to somebody. Just it's just hard. It's just difficult for you. So I appreciate that. So, two other topics I want to talk about, being that the Everyday Experts is a rainbow-friendly show. Tell me about that.
So I do identify as bisexual,
Mm-hmm.
and yeah, it is interesting because I was married to a woman, so it
Mm-hmm.
was interesting. Like anybody would be like, "Oh, are you married?" Yeah, yeah. And then when they hear my wife, they're like I cursed them out or something.
Like,
Huh?
it is
Um.
what it is.
So yeah, like it. It was always interesting. Like people never actually said what they felt, but their facial expressions usually said enough.
Mm.
Um. Yeah.
Adding another minority group to your already growing list.
Right.
What's that? How is it navigating the world of straight white men?
I pass. I have no idea. Oh, I I mean, I go with the punches, honestly. Like, if someone
Mm,
asks me a question, I'm usually very honest and open about whatever that question is. But I also know, like I said, I know even if the conversations don't happen with me in the room, conversations
mm,
are generally happening because I can tell from their facial reaction, you know.
hmm. The other one. Now, I want to allow you to give light to your sisters. I am not in a frat or sorority, but I like everybody to own their things and their people and their family that have shown them love. So you can give some love to your sorority sisters if you would like.
Well, I am an AKA. I was made in at the University of the Virgin Islands, Rosette Chapter, spring of 2013. Um, so yes, I'm an AKA. I'm also an OES and
I don't know what that is. Please
Order
enlighten.
of the Eastern Stars.
Oh, I
Yes,
didn't know that.
yes. And my chapter is based here in New York, Gardenia number 41. So yes, those are the two groups that I'm a part of.
Very nice. I didn't know that. So a lot of people have impressions of sororities and fraternities. And me and Patty, I don't remember if the kids went. I know me and Patty went, and we actually got a chance to be part of one of your fundraisers.
Oh yes,
the pancake one.
yes.
I haven't gotten any more invites to any more. I'm waiting
Because COVID, we're still on virtual meetings.
I put my mask on. I'm alright.
We are not putting our mask on.
I go for food. Tell me about some of the good stuff that you do with your sisters and how that kind of like is reflected or mirrored in your life.
So, AKAs, we're literally all about service to all mankind. So we do multiple fundraisers. We have different areas that we target, our target groups. So we we're constantly giving back to our community. We see a need, we try to fill it. Whether it's in education, whether it's in women's health, whether it's, whatever it is, homelessness, whatever it is, And OES is very similar. We're actually right now, I'm in the process of planning a give back to a ladies shelter. We're giving away hygiene products, creating like these little gift baskets to 48 to 50 women who are in need, So we're always trying to figure out how we can leave that footprint in the sand, how we can open up that door for that conversation piece for, somebody who may not understand what our purpose is. And the sisterhood is undeniable. When I came to New York, I knew one person. That was the person who came here with me, And the first thing I did was try to find a home chapter and become active in that chapter, so I could be able to, meet people, ask questions, feel at home, get that support from my sisters, and it was great.
That's a beautiful thing. I love it. Service to all mankind. I love it. I love it. I love it. So, I normally ask a superhero question, but since you've already decided to be your own version of a superhero, our last question is, if you were to go back to imaginary school, what would be the next degree you got? What degree would you want that you don't have? And I understand that you have 75, but
in my next life, I would be a neurosurgeon.
Why don't you just go and do that on the weekends?
Well, I am planning to go after I hit 20 years in the field.
To go back to school to be a neurosurgeon.
Maybe. If I want a career change at year 20, I'm going back. I'm young. Why not?
No, and I want to just clarify, the face isn't out of like judgment. The face is like, wow. You aim super high. Super high.
That's if I want to change. But short-term goals right now is opening a school. I do feel like there's a lot that our kids are not taught. It is going to be more geared towards providing a free or affordable education for African American children. That is more of a prestige school. So more exposure to music, arts, the yogas, the relaxation techniques, the self-control from a young age, just more well-rounded individuals, bringing them up like that. So that's more short-term. But I already have the degree for that. So I'm guessing if I have to go back, it would be a neurosurgeon.
Wow. So, as I've growing up into my golden years. I appreciate the need for holistic healing. You know,
Absolutely.
you don't hear about it. I know, at least when I was in school, and I was in school 1,000 years ago, so it might have changed. But you know how it is. Therapy, they talk about therapy and preach therapy and talk and medication, and that's all you hear about. You don't hear about the yogas and the Reiki and the
But,
meditation. Go ahead.
I've never even taken a Tylenol, so we're up my alley right now. I grew up on bush tea and,
Mhm.
and everything else. So, you know,
That's awesome, though. How do you think that's? I know I said that was the last question. How do you think that has benefited you?
you know what? That's such a great question. It's a great last question too. I'm gonna tell you why. Believe it or not using any traditional medicine
Mm-hmm.
has made me also open the way I think about solutions to problems.
Mm-hmm.
Because you might not get it the first time,
Mm-hmm.
and it might be a combination of things.
Mm-hmm.
It just helps you think outside of this box. Okay,
Mm-hmm.
my body hurts, I'll take a Tylenol. If it's still hurting in 2 to 4 hours, I'll take another Tylenol. Like that's not how we work, you know? So it helps you, it will help me think a little bit differently in general about
Mm.
healing, about, you know, finding back my balance and I feel like it affected like the way how I think. Like when I provide plans, I don't think inside of a box. Like I don't think everybody who has anxiety needs to count to 10. Like I find something else that may be more effective for that person based on other things that may be going on. So yeah,
Mhm.
um I don't remember if I answered your question, but yeah, you're muted.
Sorry, you did, because I was asking about holistic healing, and you answered the question.
Okay.
Because I kind of feel like it's a part of what you do.
It is.
Where I was saying that, as I've gotten older into my golden years, my 70s and my 80s, that it too has become part of, what I talk about in therapy. And,
Yeah.
it's not just we could talk all day till you pass out, but what else are you doing? You
Right.
know, if you go to church and you see a pastoral counselor, that's great. Keep doing it. If you're Muslim and you pray 5 times a day and all of that stuff, that's great. Keep doing it. You need to keep doing the things that help complete who you are for that holistic healing. That's all I was saying. But you
Absolutely.
said it much better and much more eloquently. Um, well, I think that's all they wrote for today. I am very honored to have you on the show. I appreciate you coming in and doing that. Um, I'm gonna have you hang around for a couple minutes after. We're gonna talk. I want to possibly have you come on. We talked about the April show for the autism awareness because I think that would be cool because you have more expertise in that than I do from the educational standpoint. Of course, I only have the life experience, which is boring anyway.
Life experience is the best part.
Yeah. So anyway, I will bid adieu now. I thank everybody for tuning in. I think the next show is the 19th, where we're doing the discourse, where we're talking about women's history. So, Fefe, I thank you for coming on. Our next show, I believe, is going to be the 26th. I still have to make sure Mr. Radcliffe is going to be on. But other than that, thank you all for tuning in. Joker out.